goody goody. I have a first grader who is still struggling with their basic alphabet. Should I retain her, or should I ask for a 504 or an IEP?
Yes, maybe. I don't know for sure, possibly. So struggling with the alphabet, I don't think is a reason for retention. If she only knows a couple of letter sounds, then that's a reason. When we look at, K or first grade, which is really the only way that I would advocate for a family to consider retention, I would look at, has your student met all the norms for the grade level? So if they haven't, that's when I would consider retention. So academic, social, emotional, functional, all those pieces, that's when I would consider retention. Okay, so.
Okay, very good. So second question that was emailed in is asking about their nonverbal student. And they're wanting to know what should the school be providing to help them communicate in school.
So if your student is nonverbal, you're certainly, or if they have a profound language impairment. I was on a meeting today. I won't tell you where. It was in a state that wasn't this state of amazingness. And they did a terrible AAC evaluation. It was 5 pages long. They met the student for, I don't know, she trialed 3 devices on one day, and she said she didn't like it. So that's not how we trial an AAC device, but certainly if your child has a profound speech impairment, I would want you to first look up, see how many words a student at the student's age is supposed to have, and see how far behind they are. I think one of the biggest things that we see of our team members is parents and teachers and SLPs are just waiting for the student to talk one day. And you have to look at rate of progress and expectancy. The more time the student doesn't speak, the lower probability that they're going to be speaking in the normed and average range. So a VOCD, a voice output communication device, or an AAC, an alternative augmented communication device, can bridge that gap. It doesn't replace language. It does just the opposite. It puts a demand on language. But certainly you want to get that addressed as quickly as possible.
Okay. Oh, hey, somebody else is working on emailing questions. Keep them coming. You can either comment here or email those. And Dana59 asked, is there a deadline for a PWN?
I don't know. I got one the other day from Florida, and they sent it under the legal guise of when we feel like it. So the law says that you provide a PWN within a reasonable time. So when I think of reasonable time under special education, most of those timelines are 5 business days, right? If you don't waive your 5 days, we're always talking about 5 business days. This PWN we got from Florida was a month later. So remember, the prior written notice is to confirm what we talked about in the meeting, what we're going to do, what we refuse to do, based on a number of things. So I wouldn't expect a prior written notice to be over 5 business days.
Excellent. Travis asked, what makes a great laugh?
Well, that's fantastic. It's like my hairdo. It's puffy, pristine, and prescriptive. So if you have not completely identified the student and their needs, their medical needs, their educational eligibilities from bell to bell across every piece of content area, academics, functional, transition, cafeteria, recess, moving between environments, moving between stations in the room, then you haven't finished the present levels. Your present levels should be at least 3 typed pages long. I saw some of the most offensive present levels this weekend. We were doing a training, and really your present levels are a prescription of how to serve the child. So if you were a teacher and you were going to leave, lesson plans for somebody, you leave them very detailed plans. If you're a parent and you were going to go out of town for the weekend and a lovely girl was going to come in and be your babysitter, you wouldn't just go, hey, here's my debit card. Let me know how it works out. Maybe some of us would. You would leave them very detailed instructions about what your girls need, what they wear, what they play with, what they're going to like, what they need. And most present levels that I get are horrible. I think the word that I use on the phone is train wreck. They tell me what their grades are. Let me just tell you, is this thing on? Your grades mean nothing to me. They mean absolutely zero to me, because the pressure that we have on teachers to pass every student, to have a passing grade. Well, the truth is, I don't know how you got that passing grade. I want to know about real present levels. How does that student's autism impact them in science? How does that student's autism impact them at recess? How does that student's autism impact them when we finish a preferred activity? You know, and it's going to be different across settings. It's not a one and done, but we've got to write them pristine, prescriptive, and puffy. I will tell them Carly. Oh, I love Carly has like all these E's. And if you're in the meeting, just go, I don't think special education boss would approve of this. Why don't you just do that? Here's something fun for back to school on your next IEP meeting. Just go, if you guys will hang on just a second, special education boss is about to log on. Just for fun, back to school fun. I feel like that would be fun. Would that be okay, Alicia? Can we, no? I'm going to be talked to after class.
All right, so someone asked, my son is about to start with preschool. We're new to the IEP process. He has a CP diagnosis. Where do I begin?
So cerebral palsy is not an eligibility under IDEA. However, the characteristics are whether that is a speech impairment, an orthopedic impairment, and so you're going to craft the document around those eligibilities. And based on the robust, full, and individualized evaluation that you're going to get, that you're going to ask for in all 8 areas, right? All 8 areas. Number 1, speech and language to include pragmatic, medical, physical, sociological, cognition to include all 7 Gs, formal achievement to include listening comprehension and oral expression, formal adaptive behavior, a full psychological evaluation, and all related services, all 8 of those. Once you have that done, then you can sit down as a committee and look at his needs as it relates to educational, functional, academics, emotional, behavioral, communicative, all those things.
Excellent. Okay. Lulu the kiddo said, I put in a request in writing for my son to have an AAC evaluation. The special education director said we need to wait until she calls a meeting with everyone after school starts. So to ask in writing then. So we're going to ask twice in writing. Is that right?
So, I mean, there's only an action required on the school district once they're open. There's no, unlike, it's not Panera Bread. They weren't open all summer. So certainly we put it in writing. And so I would say, we have clients, all of our team members have clients from coast to coast. So we're already back IEPing. Georgia starts school August 1st. So we back. So I would request a meeting prior to the first day of school. If not, I would request it within the first 5 days of school to make sure that we are getting an appropriate AAC evaluation. It needs to be done correctly. It needs to be done across settings, and you need to have the SLP on board to support the person who's doing the AT from the district.
Very good. All right. Sarah asked, do you provide advocate services as well? We haven't been successful with our current advocate and can't afford an attorney to go to due process.
Sure. So I personally represent families in due process hearings in Texas, mediations nationally, and probably at any point in time have over 100 federal complaints with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights, and state complaints everywhere. We have a team of 6 partners who have been personally trained by me that can also represent you as well. But certainly we want to be able to support you in whatever you need. You may not need a due process. You might just need somebody that has the ability to have successful discussions with people that can do 2 things, that can release funds and staff a class.
All right. And then Leslie said, I need to do a re-eval for an IEP. The special education teacher just copies and pastes goals from the initial evaluation.
Yeah, that would be a problem. Yeah. So, one of the first things that we do as advocates, and then we train advocates, is you almost always, when I get a new a client, I'm going to ask for a review IEP and correct evaluations. Most families either get evaluation light, they sort of get sort of the standard cognition, a little bit of language, and some emotional. You do evaluations in all areas for two reasons. Evaluations identify and eliminate, but if you don't do certain evaluations, that student's not going to be eligibility for certain services and supports.
Okay. What happens if your child never passes the STAR testing by the time they're in their last year of 12th grade?
They keep them until they're 75 years old in the parking lot. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's why it's propaganda. All of this propaganda around state testing. If that was true, do you know how many fifth graders don't pass the STAR test or the state test or the NWE or the UPS or the whatever it's called in your state? I don't care about that. We would have fifth graders who had a parking pass and a full beard. So it is all propaganda because we got to sell it to everybody that believes it. Have your kids do the very best that they can on anything. And then when it's over, it's over. Nobody cares about the state test. And the state test is not listed anywhere in IDEA.
All right. One last one. And then I'm going to pass the baton over to Bonnie. But I'll leave one after I start a fist fight. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I don't have a good question, just frustration. My son's school denied an IEP, and they denied that he has autism, saying, quote, everyone has a touch of autism. I will leave that there.
No, I think that they would have a touch of a noodle to the... I don't know why people talk. I don't know. But the truth is, if you let people talk long enough, they'll tell you exactly who they are. I would reach out to somebody else in the district and say it's really unfortunate how uninformed you are about children's needs and their educational needs.
So Caitlin in New Jersey is asking, can I request testing for autism, ADHD, not a diagnosis, just needing more help for her?
Yeah, and you don't have to. That's an amazing question. I don't ever have to have a diagnosis, a letter from a psychiatrist, a therapist, or anybody. That's never been a requirement under IDEA. We test children. The LEA, the Local Education Agency, is charged with testing children who have suspected disabilities. That's it. So it's not, you're not on the witness stand. You don't have to prove it. And then the principal decides whether or not they're going to grant it. It's not coming out of their paycheck. So you would ask for that. You would ask for a full evaluation, but with great specificity around the psychological evaluation. Depending where you're in the country, we call it a psychological evaluation or an emotional behavioral evaluation. You would ask for 2 teacher rating scales. If it's appropriate, a student interview, both parents to be interviewed, or if there's 4 parents or grandparents, might even have the daycare worker interviewed. But we all have emotional, behavioral, psychological needs to not address them as failing students.
Taylor wants to know what happens if there are no paras for para support.
It is very unfortunate. We're not, our team is not gotcha people. We certainly honor teachers. We love teachers. Probably 20% of my clients are school-based members. There's always been a special education shortage since December 1975. And unfortunately, the most marginalized children continue to be the most marginalized children. And so what we can't get back for kids with disabilities is time. This is an appropriation of funds issue. This is not a we don't like teachers issue. We love teachers. We love paras. We love special ed teachers. But I don't see anybody at admin taking a pay cut. I don't see any superintendents going, you can keep the $350,000. I don't see any of that. So this is about, is your district going to better appropriate their funding? Because they have it. A lot of things we're running low on in America, not funding. So Texas, for instance, has a $35 million, is it million? Is it billion? $35 million surplus in their state budget. And we still couldn't get it together in the legislative session.
So Erin is asking, have you had a lot of parents revoke services because they feel that their child is higher than an IEP?
No, I mean, if you don't think your child, so if your child doesn't need an IEP, that's the great thing about parental rights. We just finished a whole series on parental rights and procedural rights. Special education is consensual. So Shannon and James have to provide consent for their son Billy to have special education and related services. And so they either grant that and give consent to the district to provide that provision, or they don't grant it.
Heather is asking, my son is transferring schools. Who do I contact for his IEP?
So if it's in the same district, either way, I'd reach out to the special education team at the district level.
Do you have any advice for special needs adults and them getting proper services such as therapy?
So I don't have any specific advice for special needs adults. I am a past commissioner for the mayor's office for people with disabilities in Houston, Texas. I served the commission for the mayor for 2 terms. So you should have a disability office in your city. I would reach out to the Texas Workforce Commission or whatever workforce commission is in your state. I would reach out to whatever mental health agencies there are. They should be able to provide you or direct you to the right service professionals to get you those access to that information.
Mary asks, can the school test my son for dyslexia? Is it too late to ask?
It's never too late to ask. Don't ask for dyslexia testing. Do not ask for dyslexia testing. Ask for testing for a suspected disability in the area of a specific learning disability. There are 9 specific learning disabilities. 9. When you ask for dyslexia, that is all they are going to test for. So there are 4 areas of SLD just in reading alone. Dyslexia could be served by a special ed teacher. Basic reading, reading fluency, and comprehension. Those are 4 different components of reading, and to not test correctly means you're going to miss some of it.
Miss Trina is a first-year ECGC teacher. What do you recommend that she starts on first? She doesn't have her caseload yet.
So thank you for serving kiddos. God bless teachers. God bless special ed teachers. I would just tell you to do the thing that is the reason you're doing this. Keep it child-centered and lean into the strengths of the student and try to mitigate their areas of need.
Mustang Girl says, and maybe Alicia can help, that she missed the discussion last time about Tammany Parish. My child has an IEP there. Can you recap that?
I can't recap what happened 10 minutes ago. I was just saying parish because only in Louisiana do we have parishes. So in the United States, we either have counties, cities, or school districts. But in Louisiana, it's welcome to the Ascension Parish. And you have to say it like you have a mouthful of, use your parish. Yeah, it's fantastic to say it. Yeah. But I've never had a kiddo in that parish. But I'm sure they're fantastic.
Perfect. Is there someone local to Livingston County, Michigan? The advocates at the ARC are ghosting her.
So, I have clients from coast to coast before COVID. But thanks to this thing called an Ethernet cord, whether I'm advocating in Houston, Texas, or in Michigan, or in the Kodiak Islands of Alaska, it's the same meeting. It's the same provision of services. And you need an advocate that knows how to articulate and negotiate the state and federal law for successful student outcomes. And our teams do that.
And Kelly asks, what can you do if you don't have a certified teacher to cover the regular SPED teacher's absence?
So, all you can do if you're in a school is do your job. That's all we're asking, is that you do your job, right? We're not asking, teachers already put on their Superman cape and do 85 things either already. So you can just do your job. Certainly we want to see if the principal could staff that class. Here's what I do know. I don't know a lot. I've never seen in the United States of America anybody putting an ad out for more coaches for the 8th grade basketball team. Never seen it. Never seen an ad for more science teachers at high school. Never seen an ad for more ag teachers. Never seen an ad for more principals. So If you wanted to staff the class ABC school district, you would do that. You would pay people, you would support them, and you would celebrate them. And one day they will, and hopefully that day is going to be while I'm still on the planet.
My son was denied all of his accommodations during state testing. Is that legal?
So a denial of your civil rights, accommodations are a civil right, are a federal violation. So probably 90% of my OCR complaints started with violations of a denial of your accommodations. And those are opened and investigated by the federal government all day long. So it's a denial of any of your accommodations. And where do we have accommodations? We have daily accommodations. We have district assessment accommodations. We have state assessment accommodations. You might have accommodations in your PCS and your personal care supplement. You might have accommodations in ESY. You might have accommodations in your ACC, expanded core curriculum. You have accommodations in your behavior interventions plan. So all of those have to be implemented.
Perfect. If requesting an IEP amendment, is there a timeline the school must reply? She's going on 2 months.
So when somebody doesn't respond to me after a week, I just reach out to the executive director of the district and say, for some reason, I'm being denied communication about my child's educational needs. I think people have a condition called NICE. Doesn't serve you very well sometimes in special education. So I have a condition called CLEAR. It's a friend of NICE, but NICE is not going to move the needle. So you have to remember, I consider special education like a medical intervention. So if I had a child and I went to the emergency room and their arm was broken and they said, we are really busy. Okay, would I leave? I would not. So you have to be emphatic and you have to stick the landing about your child's needs as it relates to special education.
Mary said the school told me my son has to take ADHD medication to have an IEP. Is this true?
Oh, Mary. Can we get the full name of that person, the address, and I can just do a TikTok about that? No, that wouldn't be right. So if you give your child medicine, if you never give your child medicine, it's nobody's business. So there couldn't be anything any more inappropriate than saying that. If you have that in writing, that would certainly be a denial of his civil rights and denying him an action based on his disability.
Perfect. And Rebecca wants to know, in mediation, is the state mediator truly unbiased, or do they tend to lean with schools more?
That is a really good question. I have a mediation this week. You have to realize in mediation, a state complaint, a federal complaint, the preponderance of proving your point is on the person that filed. So I find that sometimes people file and they're ill-equipped to understand the requirements of the law. I am not a litigator. I've never been one. I won't turn into one. But I am allowed in Texas to represent families all the way through due process hearings. And when parents file on their procedural right violations and stick to that, they do much better in a mediation. So I'm also a certified mediator for the family courts here in Houston. And so it's about the correct law and the correct paperwork. And so I think parents often get into mediations and tell a very passionate story, but they don't nail down the procedural violations that they're alleging occurred at the school district.
And then Patty wants to know, why would a school district want to remove a child from SPED to general ed, even if they cannot function in the general ed setting?
Well, Patty, 7 years ago, I couldn't get a child in general ed that had a disability if I flopped on the ground and rolled around. Of course, I wouldn't do that because I would mess up my hairdo. Now the new push is we're going to shove everybody everywhere into gen ed. So our job as a committee is to look at the most appropriate place to implement their IEP. We do that across settings.
Okay, I will ask one more and send it to Shannon. Do you ever offer professional development for schools? Sarah wants to know.
I do. I am PDing people all the time. I love school districts.
Okay. If my child is in special ed, will she obtain a regular diploma?
So it depends on your state statute. So no state can reduce the benefit of IDEA. So depending on what you agreed to in your IEP, you might have agreed to or certificate of participation. I wouldn't agree to that. I wouldn't agree to that for any of my clients. But often, I don't think there's malice. It's offered by some IEP committees. If your student is 18 and it's their graduation year, they're seniors, they don't receive their diploma, whatever it's going to say on it, if they're going to continue into the 18 to 21 program until the completion of that, because it's based on the receipt of still special education services. But, if you want a question about that, I would just go correctly to your DOE, your Department of Education, your state education agency, and say that. And if you've agreed to that, you can certainly change your agreement. Every child in America in special education is due a diploma unless they're a student who meets eligibility under non-responsive.
Okay, Mary says that she finds herself sending the district reminders about evaluations and meetings that are due. Is there a problem with that?
I mean, there's not a problem with reminding the school district that I'm super excited about our meeting that's coming up. If the school district forgot that you ever have a meeting, that'd be a problem. Yeah.
Do amendment requests have a timeline? We've been waiting on 2 months for our son.
Yeah. So here's what you need to request. You need to request an IEP meeting. Okay. So we're requesting an IEP meeting, and I would just ask for a review IEP meeting. That language covers anything that you would need to address during the meeting. And then say in this meeting, you'd like an amendment. And a set of salt and pepper shakers and a lifetime supply of free hairspray. I would just throw all that in there. I actually said that to a federal mediator one time, and he was like very serious. He goes, I won't tell you where it was, Wisconsin. He goes, I don't think they're going to do that. I was like, I was just joking.
Erica is a special education teacher for 7 years. Any advice to move up to coordinator or director?
Well, we would love for you to be a coordinator. We would love for you to be a director. There are really good school districts, and there are others. So I would look at the leadership before you moved up. What is going on behind the curtain? And I don't mean that in a bad way. The further you get up in any, business model, there are different requirements. And if that's something that is amenable to you and it matches your morals and your ethics and your work, then I would move up. We certainly need great coordinators and great special ed directors.
If child meets the criteria to be classified as medically fragile, do I need to have an R to change it?
To change it so if you're going to add an eligibility or remove an eligibility, or if you're going to change or adjust minutes, you have to have an IEP meeting for sure.
Is it legal to write our IEPs for a 4-day week when we attend school 5 days a week?
Oh my gosh, I wonder what district you're in. So I'm always and will always be offended when we write, they try with me to write services 4 days a week, 3 days a week. And this is what I always say in the meeting. So you feel confident that 5th day she won't be impacted by her disability? No. If she has a disability, she needs services daily. So I would not agree to the 4-day because they take federal funds 5 days.
How do you tell what is the result of a disability versus being a teen? Severe problems organizing and keeping up with homework.
That's a really good trick question. I don't know. I had 3 teens and I never figured it out, and I was a teen. A disability is pervasive, right? A disability is eye color. It's every day, always, in all settings. And we know about that because it either met clinical criteria from a medical professional or it met educational criteria from the multidisciplinary team members. Oh, I'm not supposed to cross my arms. Shannon and Bonnie and Christina. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's a side story. No arm crossing. Maybe I should just reach out to the camera like I'm picking up a toddler. Bonnie, would that be good? Welcome to the IEP meeting. Everybody would be like, what are you doing? I'm working on being a new me.
Okay, Jessica says, a school counselor told me that there is no difference now with general ed and the 504 program. Is that true?
I can tell you what, that's one of the most honest statements I've ever heard in my whole life. Can I get an amen? Ain't much difference. Here's the thing, a 504 is simply a document that says the person with a disability in school can't be denied their accommodations. I rarely see a 504 that the teacher wouldn't have given those accommodations anyway, so I think that statement's probably pretty accurate.
This person's in Massachusetts. Where do I find an advocate for a first grader? No luck as of yet.
Right here. You would find it right here. You just reach out to advocate@specialeducationacademy.com, and we will refer you to one of our amazing team members. One of our friends this weekend was from Massachusetts. You have to say it like that. Massachusetts and Maryland. Maryland. I feel like that's how you say it.
In my girl's IEP, it says 130 minutes each day is to be in special ed setting. What does that mean?
Well, that is a really good question, isn't it? Because there's 58 million different types of special education settings. So that could be in, I don't know, she could be in juvenile detention center, in a criminal justice center. She could be in ICU. She could be in a psychiatric unit out of district. She could be in resource. She could be in an adaptive behavior unit. She could be in autism. She could be in life skills. So I would ask for clarification and specificity around that.
How do I get my son to have more one-on-one time with the subject he is behind in?
So I would be very cautious about asking for one-on-one time. When you ask for one-on-one time, you're often, you might be tracking towards life skills. And I love life skills if that's the right setting. I would ask for, how do I get my son to be part of some more targeted intervention? Channing and Megan. Hi. Somebody said, am I in Maryland? Is that what Maryland stands for? Does it stand for Maryland? It doesn't. Does it stand for Massachusetts? I don't know. I was talking during geography and all the other classes in the 80s. I don't know. I am there via the Ethernet cord.
What is the purpose of a 504?
So the purpose of a 504 is to not deny a student with an identified disability their accommodations. Oh, MD is for Maryland. So Maryland is all the doctors must come from Maryland. Ba-dum-bum. Yeah. Channing, you're so funny. Channing said, and Megan said, 504 is a joke. Yeah. So here's the deal. I'll take your 504 while we're working on the IEP, but in 27 years, I can count on less than one hand a kiddo that needed to be on 504. If you're on a 504, you're getting no targeted instruction. We're tracking nothing. We're documenting nothing. We're keeping records of nothing.
I'm going to ask one more question, then I'll pass it on to Christina.
Okay.
Rebecca wants to know, how do you become part of your team?
So how you become an advocate is we will train you to become an advocate. We have a 2-day intensive, which you can get on demand now. You can get it, just snap your fingers and you can start the 2-day training. We have a 10-week mastermind that starts July 31st. It's a 20-hour class. The prerequisite is the 2-day training. And then as soon as I pull out my book before I go to bed tonight, we will post another 2-day virtual training. But we would love to train you so that you can go and be awesome sauce and serve kiddos with disabilities.
All right, perfect segue to my next question. What do you look for in hiring another advocate? I'd be interested in learning more.
So if I was going to hire an advocate, I would hire somebody that knew the federal law. Everything else doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. If you cannot articulate and negotiate the federal statutes and the federal registry, then I don't need you to be my advocate. I think a lot of people call themselves advocates and they're really nice people. They're nice gentlemen and ladies, but they're not advocates. An advocate can negotiate federal and state law like nobody's business. An advocate is a great communicator with all persons at the IEP table, including the family. And an advocate brings both parties to the middle to try to find and maximize the best outcome for a child with a disability. I would choose an advocate that was seasoned and that's what they did for a living, not something they also do.
All right, very good. So what do you do when the school psych purposely puts off your child's eval because she is leaving, but your child had an outside eval that is more than sufficient?
So I appreciate the outside eval that's more than efficient. Every state law does require that they do inside testing in the school district, county, or city. If you have not finished my child's evaluation, we're going to have a timeline violation. So I'd reach out to the executive director on that. Thank you for the confetti. I love confetti. Confetti that doesn't get in my hair. That's fantastic.
Right? That's the best kind.
That's.
How do you know if the IEP is effective? Is it when they keep making honor roll? I feel like we aren't really making any progress.
The IEP is effective when your student makes gains. That's the only way your IEP is effective. And so you want to make sure that you're picking up your raw data collection sheets at the end of every grading period. It's the beginning of a brand new year. So you're just going to say, hey, Mrs. So-and-so and Mr. So-and-so, my name is Shannon. I am ridiculously amazing. I just wanted to let you know, since it's a new school year, at the end of every grading period, I will be picking up my child's raw data collection sheets. Do you want to put them on a VHS tape, maybe a piece of rock and a chisel, or do you want to provide me photocopies? And then if you're in Texas, I would just add muffin to the end.
And sniff.
And sniff. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to, yeah. That's more of an in the country thing.
All right, so how do we identify if something is part of their disability or it's just them being a teen? My child has a lot of organization issues, a lot of ADHD and time management issues. But if the organization is part of the disability, how do I ask for accommodations to support that, especially when they refuse to provide written assignments, listed assignments, etc.?
Right. So if you think that your child is impacted by ADHD, any of the three types, ADHD inattentive, ADHD hyperactive, or ADHD combined type, I would go to your medical professional and report those characteristics. There are 16 characteristics. And based on the number that you report, they would tell you whether or not they met the medical criteria for ADHD, and then might be able to provide you a recommendation back to the school for testing.
Excellent. All right. Let's see. My daughter's 18, just was diagnosed with TBI and epilepsy. The school states they don't have an 18 to 21 transition program.
So transition is not the 18 to 21 program. 18 to 21 is the 18 to 21 program. Transition is the federal requirement that we provide a document and a plan and a strategy of an organized set of activities for a student to have post-secondary success. So I've had kids that were never in school that were 19, and I just showed up at the school district and said he'll be in the 18 to 21 program. So the 18 to 21 program is for kiddos that have profound needs. They probably will need guardianship as an adult. They will probably need somebody to oversee how they live, how they eat, caring for themselves, probably kiddos that can't be left alone. So I had a kiddo who was a ninth grader one time who had a stroke, who was doing great, had never been in special ed, was very high academically. The outcome of the stroke, which then she had a TBI, she met criteria for that. So if they are in need of life skills, you could certainly argue that they meet eligibility for the 18 to 21 program.
Okay. And this is a teacher asking, how do we get help when the assistant super for special ed prevents teachers from suggesting one-to-ones?
That's something that we hear all the time from school-based members nationally. I can't imagine working someplace where I wasn't supported. I have in my life when I was younger and still had a thyroid. But I can't imagine working there. I know some teachers don't have an option to move to a different district. I don't know if you have a union, but it's unfortunate that people that don't work with kids, that aren't the parent of kids, stop the students from having the supports that they need to be successful as adults. Because what we do for kids in special ed is going to impact the next 80 years of their life. So I think that that assistant superintendent is unbelievably selfish.
Okay, any advice for a first-year special education teacher?
Yes, laminate everything. Just laminate yourself. Laminate everything. I just ordered a laminator on the Prime Day because I just feel like I should have one. I don't know what I'm going to laminate, but I'm going to run something through there. Just remember, it's about the kiddos, and what you're pouring into a child is just amazing. All of us can remember teachers that impacted our lives. Just love them and celebrate them, and that's more than we can ask from any teacher.
Okay, I have a son that has autism and has been kicked out of 3 different schools and has a behavior needs. I lost the next part of your question. It's somewhere deep in all of the comments.
Yeah, so when I hear that he's been kicked out, I don't really know what that means. So the law says if a child has a disability, we're required to educate them, whether in any setting. So whether they're hospitalized, whether they're participating in the criminal justice program, whether they're in an out-of-district placement at a psychiatric unit. So if the school district cannot educate my student for whatever reason, based on the acuity of his disability, then we have to have a meeting to look at out-of-district placement at the expense of the school district.
Oh, somebody else, so that another school-based member said, yeah, one-to-one is a bad word if you're a SPED teacher. You can get blackballed for suggesting that. I can imagine. All right, can you request a school change for an ALE student in Texas?
So, you can request a transfer. The problem with transfers is they're not a one and done. Unless it's out of a settlement, a dispute resolution agreement, a mediation. Even out of a mediation, the agreement's for a year. So if I get a transfer for a 3rd grader, that means I'm going to have to be hoping for a transfer every year. So I certainly would try to work around that. But there's no guarantee that the transfer is going to continue to happen, even if they do it the first time.
Excellent. So, question, we had an IEP meeting before the end of school. The principal and the teacher was there, but that's it. Is that enough?
Well, it's enough for a meeting, but it was an IEP meeting. An IEP meeting, you have to convene at least 5 stakeholders: the parent, the LEA representative, the general ed teacher, the special education teacher, and somebody who does evaluations, can interpret evaluation, and answer questions about evaluations. And I'm going to take 2 more questions. 2 really good questions. They're all really good.
All right, I'm going to toss
But
it
I
over
think
2 more.
Are we going to toss it over to Alicia so she can give us our Wheel of Fortune announcement?
Yes.
Because nobody does it like she does it. If she's not screaming at her husband, she never screams.
I like the game show voice.
Yes. So we have the Academy every night, and we're starting a brand new series tonight. We would love for you guys to join us. You can join the Academy. When you put in your information to join the Academy, there will be a place that says coupon code. You would put in TikTok Live in all caps. But we're starting a series called Every Page of the IEP. Every page of the IEP. And one of the biggest problems that we see when we train advocates and parents and school-based members is that when you get a document from Wisconsin or Indiana or Florida, you don't know what pages are missing. And so we're going to train you. It's probably going to be at least a 10-week series of every page of the IEP. Will every page be applicable to your student and their disability? No. But you need to know what those pages are to see if they are in your document.
All right, well, we're looking for the great Alicia. I'm going to
I'm here.
Oh, there she is. There she
Sorry,
is.
I was changing the diaper.
Wheel of Fortune.
Yes.
Okay, what am I doing?
So I was just going to let you tell them about joining the Academy.
Oh, yes. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to www.specialeducationacademy.com, you're going to tip at the training tab at the top of the page. You're going to go down to where it says the Academy. Click on that. It'll pull up a registration page. You're going to fill out all of your information, including your credit card information. And then at the bottom, it's going to say, have a coupon code and a little blue button. And you're going to click that, and in all caps, you're going to type in TikTok Live.
Yeah.
Now, if you are a visual learner like me, Karen has a pinned video on her TikTok page that goes through all of the steps with you. So you can join us tonight.
Tonight's the night. So somebody said history talk. I like that. Have you ever been to a HISD IEP? I have. See these two lines on my face? They spell Houston Independent School District. Yeah. I do not any longer take clients in Houston ISD. Our team members do. Only because it just gets so laborious. And that is a different commitment that I may have in my schedule. But our team members do. But Houston ISD is their own mess. They've been a mess for a very long time. They have 250,000 children in the district, and they are just full of some shenanigans. I feel like maybe JJ Wyatt should just buy Houston ISD, and then we could go in there and just get out the Fabuloso and clean it all up. That's just me. So, listen, we love you guys. If you need anything, you can always email us at admin. Aaron said, so what you're saying is never work for HISD. I didn't say that, Aaron. If you're on the cleanup crew, get in there. So if you have questions, you can just email us directly on all of the platforms, or you can just email us at advocate@Special Education Academy. Remember, you guys, we're going to have a great year, and we get it right for the child. We get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training.